Erik ten Hag urges Ineos to give him more time as the Manchester United manager. The failed Qatari bids speak out over what they're describing as mistreatment from the Glazers in their failed takeover bid. And the reason for all of our injuries has been discovered. These are some of the stories we will be discussing on today's show. But before we jump into that, please smash a like on today's video. Subscribe to the channel if you're new, and let's get straight on into it. So let's start the show off by bringing some positivity, because that's what I always like to do at the beginning of each show. So we can confirm that Jack and Tyler Fletcher, the sons of Darren Fletcher, have both signed their first professional contracts at Manchester United. Obviously, we signed them, I think it was last year, from Man City. They're still in the youth team at the moment, but they're two players who, from what I'm hearing, look really, really good and could be the next kind of two players to break through into the Manchester United first team. So really, really happy that they've just signed a new contract. This is a professional contract. So it's their first professional contract to Manchester United. So fair play to them. Wish you all the best and congratulations on your professional contracts as Manchester United players. Right, moving on from that though, let's talk a little bit about the injury news then. So a story broke last night from, I think it's James Ducker in The Telegraph, very reliable journalist. He's the Manchester United and Manchester City correspondent for The Telegraph here in the UK. And he is reporting that apparently Manchester United are one of the very few top-level clubs who do not employ a fitness coach. And that will change under Ineos, with the performance and psychological provision one of the areas under review. This makes a lot of sense, doesn't it? It really, really does, because we've had so many injuries and everyone keeps blaming Erik ten Hag. And from what this story says, effectively Erik ten Hag has been having to operate as a fitness coach. I read a little bit more into this. So apparently when Erik ten Hag joined Manchester United, he tried to bring his top fitness coach with him from Ajax, who was very, very highly regarded. But apparently Man United said, no, you can't bring any more people, because obviously he brought Mitchell van der Gaag, he brought Steve McLaren, Benny McCarthy. And Erik ten Hag presented this to the Glazers and said, we need a fitness coach, because it's very important. All of the other top clubs in the Premier League and around Europe will have one designated person who will manage the injuries, manage the fitness. It's different to a doctor, okay? This is somebody who prevents it in advance. And the fact that Man United don't have one of these is crazy, but it doesn't really surprise me. I know, Ineos are now through the door, but they've only been here a couple of months. So this lack of fitness coach is because of the Glazers. It's not because of Ineos. And it's good that Ineos are addressing this, because I do think this will make a massive difference. If all the other clubs have this and we don't, then no wonder our players are dropping like flies. Erik ten Hag's also been talking about injuries in his press conference, and he says, we don't train too hard. With the standards in this league, you need to be fit. He says we have good departments, we have good people with a lot of knowledge based on data. He says the huge amount of games also has an impact. And I've seen a lot of people on Twitter and stuff saying that, Erik ten Hag makes them train too much in between games. Erik ten Hag also said that between the game against Brentford and the game tonight, they've barely trained because the players need to recover. And I think that for him to come out and say this pretty much shuts down all of these claims that, Erik ten Hag's making them run marathons in between games and doing pointless training exercises just to tire them out. Like, that is not what's happening. And I think, if anything, it's a lack of higher up managerial elite coaches focusing on fitness who have caused this problem. And that effectively, results back to the Glazers. The Glazers didn't allow Erik ten Hag to bring in his fitness coach, the top fitness person from Ajax. And that's why we've been struggling. So it makes a lot of sense. And I'm glad that they've discovered this now. And from what these stories are saying, Manchester United will rectify this because it's very, very important, So yeah, really, really happy to see that, and really happy to see that we've actually found the reason why. And now people can kind of take that blame off Erik ten Hag a little bit. His job is to coach the players. His job is not to, obviously he has to manage their fitness as well. But as I said, at most top clubs, you would have a fitness specialist, and we've not had that. And that's because of the Glazers' lack of ability to understand what a top football club needs. So, it's good that we've had a bit of clarity on that. Obviously, it doesn't justify where we are in the table. It doesn't justify us finishing bottom of the group in the Champions League, but it makes a little bit more sense why all of our players are dropping like flies, and why we've had, I think, over 51 different injuries in one season, which is a record in the Premier League. But yeah, let me know what you guys think about that. Hopefully we can, get this sorted, and hopefully going into next season, will have this proper team around Ten Hag to try and, progress. Moving over to the story about Qatar then. So this has come out from The Athletic this morning, and it says that legal representatives of Sheikh Jassim have sent legal letters to Manchester United lawyers in New York and London to complain about what is being described as a pattern of demonstrably false and defamatory information. So it's defamation, which is effectively where you put something out which isn't correct. And then, in America especially, you can sue people for things like that. So if I said, for example, I can't think of an example off the top of my head, but if I said something about you as an individual that was incorrect and I put it out into the public domain, I could then look to sue you for defamation. So that's what it looks like Sheikh Jassim and his legal representatives are exploring. And it says, so statements made by both Serge and Ratcliffe and their attempt to buy the club. We'll wait and see what happens here. At the end of the day, Qatar haven't won the club. So are they just being salty? I'm not sure. I don't really know. Like, when I read through the story a little bit further, there's quotes from Ineos' HQ where it says the Sheikh Jassim bid is very odd. It says that Serge and Ratcliffe said nobody has ever seen Sheikh Jassim. He says that the Glazers, the family that own the club, have never seen him. He says, I'm not sure he exists. So these are some of the comments that Sheikh Jassim's obviously not happy about, that, Serge and Ratcliffe, who effectively won the bid, throughout the process was saying what are being described as false things, that he doesn't exist and all the rest of it. I don't know. I think it's just Qatar trying to claw back a bit of their kind of pride. We know throughout the whole of the process, people say that when, Qatar or a Middle Eastern country come in to buy something, they very, very rarely lose. And they did effectively lose in this instance. They lost the bid, and I think it does just come across as a little bit salty now, to be honest. But Serge and Ratcliffe is in. That's not going to change. So I don't really understand what Qatar are trying to do here, other than maybe regain a bit of public approval, which they feel like they might have lost because of some of the stuff that Jim Ratcliffe and Glazers have said. But so for anybody watching this video thinking, does this mean that Qatar are now going to buy the club? Far from it. I think the relationship between Qatar and Manchester United is at rock bottom, and I think that if shares were ever to be sold in Man United again, I don't think they would be sold to Qatar, to be honest. I think they'd probably look elsewhere. Let's wait and see what happens there. Moving over to the next story, and that is about Erik Ten Hag. We've got some quotes for you from his press conference that came out, I think it was late last night. And he's talking about his job. So Fabrizio Romano has reposted this just now. He says, Erik Ten Hag urges Ineos to have patience with his job. He says, we are in a good way, a good direction, and we need to make the next steps. He says, don't interrupt this process. So this is ultimately Erik Ten Hag. I don't want to say the word begging, because that's maybe a little bit strong, but he's urging, as Fabrizio says, he's urging Ineos, he's urging the fans to get behind him and to not interrupt this process. When he says we're in a good way, in a good direction, I don't know if I agree with that, to be honest. I don't think we're in a good way at the moment. I think last season we were going in the right direction. I think this season we've gone backwards, to be honest. But when you look at all the injuries we've had, when you look at the off-field issues, the Anthony allegations, Sancho, what else has there been? Marcus Rashford's going out clubbing and putting out statements. Like, he's had so much the takeover as well. Like, there's been so much going on off the field this season with all the injuries as well, that it's not been a very stable season for a manager in any club. Like, imagine if this was Man City. Imagine if Man City had 51 different injuries in one season. Imagine if, 2 or 3 of their best players had either fallen out of the manager or had, allegations made against them, which meant they couldn't play. Like, that would completely unsettle a team like Man City. It would. If you look at Man City as an example, right, you see the stats when Rodri isn't playing. Like, they're not the same team when Rodri isn't playing. And if you look at the team that's there at the moment, Martinez is injured, Varane's been injured for most of the season, Luke Shaw's been injured for most of the season, Casemiro has, Anthony's obviously not been very good. Like, Højlund was injured for a lot of the season. Like, you go through that team, and I think we've played over 20 different centre-back partnerships this season. I mean, just let that sink in for a minute. 20 different partnerships in one season. You look at Arsenal, they've got Saliba and Gabriel. They've played almost every single game. Now, we need to find a solution, because we can't go into next season with these same excuses. If the players are injury prone, you need to sell them or bring in other people, because I will give them the benefit of the doubt this year, not the players, but the manager. And I'll say, he's been through a lot. He's had a really hard time. But if they don't actively do anything about it in the summer, then obviously next season, all of those excuses are gone. I'm not going to sit here and say, oh, he's got injuries in the same players who were injured last season, you know, because he can identify that. We can all see looking in that there's certain players who are injury prone. There's certain players who aren't good enough to be Manchester United players. And if in the summer window he moves all of these people out, I think we could be on the right path. But if they're still here next season, then I think Erik ten Hag probably won't make it at Man United kind of going into next season. But let me know what you think about this. I mean, it is getting, you know, towards a difficult time. If we don't get a result against Chelsea tonight and then lose against Liverpool, I think he could be in big trouble, to be completely honest with you. You know that I want Erik ten Hag to stay in the job. You know that I like him. You know that he's got my backing. But yeah, I think it's going to be a difficult one, to be completely honest with you. But yeah, let me know what you guys think about this one in the comment section below. I'm going to wrap the video up here. Thank you so much for watching the show this morning. If you have enjoyed today's video, please smash a like on it before you go. Subscribe to the channel if you're new. This has been Daily Red Devil. Have a great day, everybody, whatever you're doing, and I'll speak to you all a bit later.